as per the request for our newest follower, thank you for the follow, by the way. Let's play that replay. Once again, this is gameplay that I have not shown the stream yet, so sit back and enjoy. Now, like most of my offline stuff, this is just kind of practicing. I tend to experiment more with my offline gameplay than my online stream stuff for pretty obvious reasons. So I play a little bit riskier there, and, well, there's really not that much more to explain. By the way, I discovered that you can graze enemies as well as shots. And with the right kind of enemy, you can just get a bunch of bombs really quickly. However, I think the risk is proportional to the reward, because your graze box is pretty small, and if you do overlap with an enemy, you see, wow. I would be ashamed if I let that mid-boss go normally. But that just shows how much more I can improve on this. Anyway, when you overlap it with an enemy, your bomb goes off very quickly. Like, you lose a ton of them in a short time. So that kind of offsets the benefit of being able to get a lot of bombs in a fairly short time if you graze enemies. Also known as, once again with the host. It's probably an auto host, so they might not be watching, but if so, it is always appreciated. Actually, I should probably pay closer attention to this replay. Sometimes after I play several games in a row, I kind of lose track of what specific things I did. And, like, watching your own replay seems like kind of the sort of thing that a person with a large ego would do, but it actually works well for a lot of different games. Like, obviously in competitive games you want to look for your mistakes and the things you did well, but like, that's helped me with Dark Souls as well. In fact, that's how I discovered some parry strategies for a couple of enemies. Of course, not everyone has the inclination to constantly record their own gameplay, and that is understandable. I think the best multiplayer I've gotten for Stage 1 is around 91 maybe. And I don't quite recall what I did to get the extra multiplier stocks for that one. Anyway, I'm actually surprised that I had such a shaky start for this, but I guess it's almost impossible to die in the first couple of stages, so maybe that's the reason I'm playing it a little bit sloppy. Oh, a lot sloppy. Let's not sugarcoat it. But, you know, I kind of thought that this game might be the sort that doesn't really explain how things work. But when I looked at the associated files of this game, including the little tutorial card, it actually explains pretty much everything. Like, for example, I would have known about mashing the laser button for increased power much earlier if I had taken a look at that stuff, even though it was in Japanese and I I cannot read Japanese. There's some pretty nice extra content too. There's some neat pictures in there. Also, Tetsu, if you're still here, I have another little custom robo question. Would you like to see me start the game like blind? Like, the first time I boot up the game is when I'm on stream? Or do you want to see something where I, like, at least played around with the controls first? I think I already know the answer to this one, but I want to be sure. Okay. I have to say, I can understand where you're coming from there, Tetsu. Because there is something to seeing a player play a game without having ever really tried it before. I think that's just why blind speedruns are kind of a thing in general. Oh right, for the second boss, once it goes into crazy, there's a pretty decent benefit for damaging it a bit. Because you cause those secondary kind of flame jets to appear after damaging it, and you can use those to get a lot more, or at least a decent amount more multiplier out of the boss death explosions. You only ever get one part at a time for the entire first half? Okay. I know I shouldn't make assumptions, but I assume that Custom Robo has something similar to Armored Core's Test Arena, where you can just go in and try parts out. Yes, it does? Okay, good. Other small details about this game. I noticed that those mini turrets that you destroy separately from the larger ship, if you destroy the large ship first, then the small turrets become invulnerable and keep shooting at you until the final death explosion of the enemy, which can be a problem. I still have a lot of trouble getting the multiplier from those enemies that I just cleared. Also, I'm a little curious with this mid-boss on how exactly to get the most multiplier for the spinning fire beam things. I wish there was other people to talk with about this game, because there are certain mechanics that I still haven't figured out. I know there's a better way to handle that second wave, but it's not enough of a big deal that I'm really worried about it. Oh yeah, Tetsu, have you come up with anything else you'd like to hear me read out loud? Because it's been a while since I've done a reading session, and I would like to stay in practice for that sort of thing. I guess you could say I've never really given up being a storyteller. Not at the moment? Alright, I'll see if there's anything I can find. That's one that I haven't heard of, actually. I've noticed that with these particular kind of slow fire beams, You get more multiplier by slowly moving forward while shooting it. Article about the Italian Senate meeting. Like, as long as it's something that benefits from me putting a lot of feeling into it, throw a link at me and we'll see. Now, my standard procedure is to kill both of these bits, which causes them to come back in a fairly reliable way, and once it's in that formation, then I deal more damage to the boss and it switches to the part where I can get a lot of multiplier and points out of it. But I still do not know how to reliably get those two bits to come back. Like, usually it works, but sometimes it doesn't and I have to throw the scoring run away. That's not fun. Also, no, I did not hear what happened. I wonder if what you're talking about, Tetsu, is the sort of thing that's more interesting if I read it for the first time on stream. Final Fantasy VII porn. Of course it would be that kind of porn. Like, Rule 34 shows no mercy, but Final Fantasy VII is an especially frequent victim of it. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I want to read that article. Now, for this stage especially, it would be best if I put a lot of effort into memorizing the enemy placement, because there are some pretty strong rewards for killing these enemies right as they come on screen. Like, that's the sort of thing that I want to prevent, what you just saw there. And also, because of the time limit thing, you want to use maximum mashing. That is, hold down the normal fire button and mash the laser. I think that's the way you get the best DPS in the game. But I don't think you get the best score out of it, actually. So you gotta be a little careful about it. Oh, that's right. I remember you were working on kind of some research for a tournament, right? Was it related to that by any chance? Aha. By the way, I feel like I need to explain something. The reason I asked why the Karasawa was that good in Master of Arena was I actually ran into some projectile speed problems with that thing. Like, there were some cases where my opponent could just sidewalk it. But I guess maybe with the right circumstances you could make the Karasawa as good as you would expect it to be. Also, what map did you fall out of, if I may ask? Berserk MTs, okay. I actually kind of forgot that MTs could be added to PvP maps and similar such. I don't usually see that sort of thing. Now, ideally, if I really wanted to farm this boss for score, I would deal a lot more damage to it beforehand, so that once it reached crazy, it only had a little bit left. Because you get a lot of your points from dealing damage with your laser. Well, you also get some points from dealing damage with your shot, but I'm not sure it's efficient. Better than nothing, though. Yeah, just moving towards the center of the screen a little bit is enough to dodge that scary sweep at the end. Get some nice point items for doing that. Yeah, the build-up for the start of this stage is well earned. I think I stand by my statement that this stage causes me more overall trouble than any other. And at least part of it is because I get too greedy. Like, this stage fights back too hard for you to get too reckless with it, even though the game allows you to take a ridiculous number of hits. Like this part right here. I actually forgot about that approach to it, and I would do well to take note of it later. Still have not found a good solution for that one yet, though. Once again, I pray for this game to someday get a stage select feature for practice. That would be amazing. Also is diabolical, though fitting, for those sections with the regenerating turrets. Like, if you just stand still on one while it's exploding, you get a full stock of multiplier. It's just that those particular parts tend to kill you for standing still. Little details like that. I wonder if it's worth it to just keep killing the small enemies until they stop spawning and just dodge the cruiser or wherever you want to call that ship. I should experiment with that. I also like the sneaky method of having the gameplay and music change at the same time. I always appreciate that. Although my favorite... Well, actually, I'm going to say it's a tie. Dokingan does it extremely well, but also there's a pattern in Lennon 2 that does that extremely effectively, and I love it for the same reason. Now, if I was going for score really hard, I would avoid killing that mini-boss and just farm the turrets for a while. I saw a dedicated score playthrough that did that. I don't quite have the skills to cut back and forth against that sequence yet, though. Probably won't have the skills for that for a good long while. One thing that I used to do, which I guess I can't really do it with this game because of the really fast-paced music, but Firing in time with the music is always fun. I have a video playthrough of another shmup where I do that. Unfortunately, the sound of that game kind of went out of sync, so the effect was kind of lost. Oh well. Yeah, sometimes I kind of show off how tiny your hitbox is in this game by just going right through those blue lines of shots. Although, obviously, it fails a lot more often than it succeeds. Like, you can't just ignore those things. Also, I don't know if it... excuse me. I don't know if it depends on the version of the game you're playing, but I've seen playthroughs that make this phase of the boss battle last a lot longer. I'm not sure how that works. Like, right up until time runs out. But that was in version 0.1, so they might have altered how it works. By the way, if you haven't watched the 0.1 playthrough of this game and you want to learn more about the game, definitely take a look. Even though the scoring system is much more generous in that version, the general gameplay and stats to survive and score seem to be close enough that you can learn a lot from it. Also, the player is just really good. Like, incredibly good. I don't think I'll ever reach that level of skill, probably. Now here, I could have used a manual bomb to help prevent trouble, but oh well. By the way, I found that when using a full bomb, you actually get a bomb meter back depending on the number of shots you cancel. And since that crazy pattern generates a lot of shots, you get half a bomb stock back just right away. So you can full bomb through just about the whole pattern and you'll be fine, more or less. I should do that more often. Those medium-sized ships that die quickly, those are so well designed. Like, as a threat, they're nothing big, but as a challenge for a scoring run, they're actually kind of a problem. Because you get a big chunk of multiplier for going over their explosions, but it has to be instant. Like, you have to be kind of approaching it from the side and then move at maximum speed to the center of it if you want to get the full thing. And that kind of restricts the kind of movements you could do, which, of course, makes things a lot more dangerous. Now, some of this dodging looks like luck, and, okay, I gotta say it kind of is, but because your hitbox is so small, that kind of dodging pattern works more often than it probably should have, if I'm gonna be honest. For some reason, that sequence right there always gets me. So cool. Now, this part right here. That part I don't have a solution for because of the many directions of enemy fire. I should probably do some more research on that. And of course, if you have the bombs to spare, you can get tons of multiplier from this. The trick, of course, is having the bombs to spare and then surviving afterwards. Like in the run that I just did, I got too greedy about it. Like, honestly, this is also getting too greedy about it. But hey, I guess it's not hubris if you succeed, huh? Also, I should move to the upper left earlier in that sequence. Even if I don't get to graze as much, the risk is not worth it. Like, I lost the bomb I was trying to get, basically. The audio glitches in this game and the general kind of scuffedness of certain things, they're a little bit annoying. I mean, I love this game and I'm saying they get a little bit annoying, but at the same time, I think it adds a little bit to the game's charm. It's a personal thing, though. I can certainly understand if someone else is not a fan. I know that there's a way to consistently dodge that there, but I haven't gotten it down yet. Another thing that I haven't quite gotten down yet is this part right here. Theoretically, you can farm quite a bit of that fire beam stuff. But since the boss's life is so low, any auto bombs you do tend to kill it pretty fast. Once again, nice design, gotta say. Also, I just realized... I looked closely at the design of that laser, and I'm wondering if getting in really close with it deals some extra damage, just from the graphic of that thing. Also, I should write this route down, because I've never done as well in this part of the game as I did in this playthrough. And I have to admit, I kind of forgot how I did it. So, House XR's suggestion to put this on YouTube is probably going to be helpful for me as well. Now, if you compare the gray score and the purple score, you'll see that a pretty large portion of my final score comes from this fight right here. The boss doesn't move around a whole lot in this phase, so if you're feeling really gutsy, you can graze the boss to quickly get bombs back. speaking of gutsy, you can get a pretty big chunk of multiplier by just diving right into the beams filled with blue shots. Like, if you have a bomb to spare, it's not a bad idea for scoring, especially in the first cycle. I would not try it in the second cycle. I usually need all of my bombs, as you're about to see. There was actually one playthrough where, at that very moment, I had hit the boss too much, so I killed the boss instead of letting it time out. That was not fun. That was also how I discovered what happens when you don't get the true ending. Uh-oh. Like, a large part of the true final boss is being able to deal with this pattern. Because if you can do that and come through with more bombs than you started with, you're in really good shape for the rest of it. Well, that being said, even with a decent stock of bombs, you have to do better with that final pattern than I did right there. Like, it's perfectly excusable to take some hits, but... Ah, tragic. Like, that's the most survivable pattern. I just talked about how you need to be able to beat that. And of course that's where I get killed, but you know what? Excuse me. Improvements to be made. Someday I'll see that no-miss. Well, actually, I have seen it before, after failing the no-miss on the previous stage. But no matter. No matter. We'll keep going. So, that's the, that is my best replay so far. I think it's reasonable that I can improve on that. Once again, all the pieces are there. It's just a matter of playing it more, which is not a problem for me, because I always have fun with this game. Well, there are parts that are still a little frustrating to me because I still don't know how they work, the third boss in particular. But I guess that's more experimentation. Well, also, and I know I've said this before, but despite how it looks, this is actually a great shmup to get started on, just because of how upfront it is about everything and how forgiving it is as well. Alright, so just to reiterate what I said before, my stream will, uncharacteristically, be on time for at least the next 3 or 4 days, possibly longer than that, and Yeah, I didn't sit through the credits for that one because, once again, that was playing offline. Anyway, to finish this up, let's go to just chatting for a brief moment. To sum it up, built-in replays are great. Dokingan, lots of explosions, great music,